welcome to the StressOut podcast, where we explore strategies for managing work-related stress and burnout. Today, we have Velina Dragiyska, a psychologist specializing in workplace mental health. Velina explores the interconnection between our inner state and external expression, including in our occupation. Today, we will be discussing the science behind stress and practical ways to manage it. Mrs. Dragiyska, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for the invitation. For me, it's a pleasure joining on such lovely topic. I believe nowadays this is one of the biggest challenges in front of every working person.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Okay, so to start, could you tell us what exactly do we mean when we talk about work-related stress? And how does it differ from other types of stress?
Well, let's start from there. Stress is stress. Of course, in the name work-related, it's meant that it's caused by workplace demands and the work environment itself. As we know, environment plays so significant role in our overall well-being. And work-related stress refers to the physiological and psychological strain that it's caused to our body, to our system. And while stress in general, it's a body response to any demand or threat, work-related stress specifically arises from challenges like heavy workload, deadlines, a lot of deadlines, or lack of control over tasks. It could be also caused by the workplace dynamics. But one very, very important, let's say, differentiation. It differs from other types of stress in that it's often prolonged, meaning that it takes more resources than just a single stress response to a stressful event. And there is the actual problem that we're going to address today in this podcast and in general when we talk of ways and strategies to manage stress. Short-term stress is just a response. And in a way, it's not harming our body. But when it's prolonged, it does significant harm to our system, including the immune system. And yeah, we can tolerate some amount of stress, but when it's too much, we enter in what we call general adaptation syndrome, which is basically in 3 stages. We have the alarm stage, when the organism mobilizes to meet the stressor, or this is the short-term reaction. And then this reaction is connected with adrenaline, a hormone that prepares the body to react and address a threat. And then the second stage is the resistance stage. Here, the body attempts to resist the stressor, but our organism it's not able to resist forever. And this is the place where another hormone plays a significant role. This is cortisol. And cortisol in big amounts have very, very harming effect on our body. And then once we enter the third stage, it's when the problems arise. Here we have exhaustion. We have decreased resistance, and our immune system response drops significantly. We have exhausted adaptation energy, and we start entering in the very negative consequences of stress. So when we speak about work-related stress, this is the main thing we should remember why it differs, because it's often too long for our body to respond in a healthy manner. And of course, here we must say that speaking of work stress, it also impacts our identity. We are very, very connected with our social role in the workplace, and our self-worth is often linked with the way we feel and experience ourselves at work.
That was very, very, very interesting. Thank you very much for explaining it. I would also like to hear more about what are the most common misconceptions about the work-related stress?
Oh, there are so many misconceptions about stress. You know, when we use a word too much and too often, it starts losing its meaning, and we start giving meaning that's not so true. I have faced so many misconceptions, and some of them are really, really harmful. One is the general conceptions that it's prevalent that the work stress related, it's normal, it's part of the job, it's part of being. Well, occasional stress is common, but chronic work-related stress should not be accepted as normal. It could lead to burnout, decreased productivity, and significant mental and physical health issues. We should not accept it as normal. Another misconception that it's very common, especially for people who are self-employed or in any kind of entrepreneurial role, is that if you love your job, you should not feel stressed. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. It's a general misconception. Even when we are passionate about work, we can experience high levels of stress. And sometimes we put very unrealistic demands in front of ourselves, especially if self-employed. Passion and stress are not mutually exclusive. They can co-occur, and they co-occur very often. And maybe another one that we need to pay attention is the misconception that work-related stress affects only our mental health. It doesn't. It affects our body in a way that it's very harmful, and actually can cause headache, muscle tension, gastro, digestive, and sleep disturbances. And as I said, immune system response is very decreased. Of course, there are many other work-related stress misconceptions, like that you're weak if you are not coping well with stress. No, you're not weak. It's just a response. You should not feel ashamed if you experience high levels of stress. Or another thing, maybe the last one I want to mention here, it's many people believe that if they take a break, short break, holiday, vacation, or any time off, this will solve any stress problems they're facing. Again, taking vacations, taking time off, it's a must and it helps, but unless we address the cause for stress experience we have, nothing will change. Like we need to find sustainable solution, which it's not hidden only in one vacation. We need to find a place where we feel in balance, in harmony, and where we can be experiencing more of our passion in a healthy way.
And talking about the symptoms, can you name some of the lesser known physiological symptoms of stress that people might not recognize as stress related?
Of course, actually, there is a really interesting survey made during StressOut project that addresses these lesser known symptoms. Yeah, of course, we all know that anxiety, the leading symptom that people recognize, it's connected to stress. But we have many others. We have any difficulties related to sleep. This is very connected to stress. Then we have let's say, the weakened immune system that I mentioned earlier. It's something that people do not immediately connect with stress. Loss of appetite. Then we have the headaches. And of course, one of the most, very, very few people know about that, but changes in skin condition. It's physiological symptom of stress. It could cause skin issues such as eczemas, hives, and etc. So basically, as you can see, it does affect our body a lot. It causes racing thoughts, difficulty breathing, and yeah, it's trigger also for depression and anxiety, as it's well known.
So if we assume that each individual experience different symptoms, can you tell, is the stress a really universal concept, or there are some variations across the population?
Okay, so that's a really nice question. Stress is a universal concept. It's fundamental human response. And while it's the bodily functions, the physiological functions, the way it's created through hormones, through system, endocrine system, and etc., it's universal and it's applicable to all people. There are so many variations on the way how we do experience it. And first, I want to start with that people understand events differently. And one event could be stressful for one person and not stressful at all to another. This is a theory for appraisal. Basically, when if an event happens to us, we have this primary appraisal, is it stressful or not? And then we have a secondary appraisal, that it's, can we handle it? Can we manage it successfully? And this secondary appraisal actually tells us if we perceive the event as stressful. And this theory, it's developed a long time ago in the 90s about the perception of stress by Richard Wasaurus. It's a very nice theory. Beyond that theory, beyond our perception and appraisal to stress, we do have very interesting variations across the population. One of the things is we have cultural differences. Culture plays a significant role in shaping how individuals perceive stress and respond to stress. One example is that in Asian culture, African societies, where we have more collectivist types of culture, stress is more tied to social obligations, group harmony, or just family pressure. And there you have stronger support from the community. Interestingly, I read a study about these collectivist cultures, and the study was about schizophrenia. People with schizophrenia adapt and function better in such cultures where community is stronger, and they recover better from some of the symptoms of the disorder. While in individualistic cultures, like many Western societies, basically, stress it stems from personal achievements, from career, status, and independence. And then people in those Western cultures focus more on individual strategies, self-care, therapy, which is a nice thing, but the community aspect, it's missing. And in many cultures as well, stress is viewed differently. Some see it as a weakness, leading to stigma around expressing and seeking help. One other variable that it's worth mentioning is the so-called socioeconomic status. And it plays a significant role. We cannot deny this. People with fewer financial resources or unstable employment experience chronic stress more often due to concern over basic needs, such as like housing, healthcare, etc. Again, I read very interesting study about that. The study was about young people of low socioeconomic status. They do suffer more from mental disorders, anxiety, depression, etc. And there was a comparison between how high and low socioeconomic status young people. The difference wasn't in the stressors, it wasn't in the stressful events that they are facing, but the ways of coping. Quality coping, like seeking professional help, having resources, played significant role for successful recovery. And for those who have like higher socioeconomic status. For those who, well, this lacked and led to more vulnerability for comorbid disorders, meaning having one mental disorder and adding another one that co-occur while experience both or more than two actually. So as you can see, there are many things that play a role when we experience stress.
I believe that you already answered this question, but why is there no a single antidote to stress?
Oh, yeah, it's more or less I answer it, but there is another thing that could be added here. Again, people experience and respond to stress in unique ways. We should think when we speak of stress response about the coping styles. There are two main coping styles. The first one is the problem focused coping. Like this is when we decide cognitively, we decide if we can do something about the problem we experience, about the stress we experience. Can we change the situation? Can we switch the workplace? Can we influence? Like this is active behavior that will help us address the situation. And the second coping style, it's emotion focused. What we do about our feelings, what we do about our functioning, our emotional state, and our mental health, ultimately. Effective stress management requires both strategies when we can to address the problem and to address the way we experience it.
That's really, really interesting. And there is something else I want to ask you about. So, in your opinion, how does the role of the leadership influence the levels of stress experienced by the employees at a specific workplace?
Thank you for the question. There are many studies that support that leadership plays a crucial role in shaping workplace culture, thus also shaping the stress levels. Leaders who are providing clear communication, supportive feedback, and ultimately empower their employees significantly reduce stress. Conversely, like authoritarian or distant leadership styles can lead to environment of fear, uncertainty, stress. There is a lot of trust issues that could be created by ineffective leadership style.
Okay, so that brings me to my next question. Let's talk about the work-life balance. How does the concept of the work-life balance play into the management of stress? And is it simple as it sounds?
Firstly, no, it's not as simple as it sounds. Again, work-life balance is a key factor. It's a phrase that we tend to use a lot, and somehow I feel it has lost its meaning. Work-life balance has many different subtopics that should be addressed here. But it gets harder and harder to be achieved in today's hyper-connected world, especially after COVID. It's expected from many employees to be available outside working hours. Especially if they're working remotely, then their house becomes their workplace. And the lines become very, very blurred between professional and personal issues. When we work from home, especially after COVID, it does require to set boundaries, very clear boundaries, such as setting time, setting space, creating dedicated space for ourselves to connect with work, and then when we switch off, we do switch off. And we can speak more about mental detachment, because maybe you agree with me, even after working hours, you still are thinking about work. We're not just switching off, now I'm work, now I'm at home doing my home duties. No. And this is a struggle, because setting boundaries, it's another cliche that many people repeat, but it's much harder to be achieved than it sounds. Yes, setting boundaries becomes it's a cornerstone, because it's linked to our self-worth and self-value. If we value ourselves enough, if we value our time, our space, physical, mental, emotional space including, then when we set boundaries, we're more confident to, let's say, enforce it, to reestablish them when they have been violated. So work-life balance, it's a process. It's not something we once do and never look back. No. Such as setting boundaries, we must actually daily reassure ourselves that this is our space, and that's the space that it's sacred in a way and should not be it should not be violated.
I can definitely relate to that, and I'm sure that many of our listeners can too. But given what you just shared with us, in your opinion, what is the best way to prevent professional stress?
It requires holistic approach, both on organizational and individual levels. Organizations can reduce stress by fostering clear communication, offering flexible work arrangements, promoting healthy work-life balance by example, and I'm stressing a lot by example, because many companies are stating that they do have promotion of work-life balance, but the way to do this, it's not just in a policy, it's set by examples from the managers. There is a study about that the best way to promote it is people to see that managers have a healthy work-life balance. And of course, on organizational level, providing mental health support. It could be in any form, like psychoeducation has been proven to be very effective, but also individual counseling, taking flexible time off, and etc., having sessions in groups, all that helps. And on individual level, setting boundaries, very important way to keep the stress away. Prioritizing tasks, self-care, focusing on self-worth, and maybe think that it's quite important is engaging ourselves in regular relaxation techniques like mindfulness, and not forgetting about our bodies, like exercising. Any type of exercise, either going to gym or a long walk, would be very beneficial. I know it does sound a little bit basic to tell you to walk 10,000 steps a day or 7,000, because this is where it's the minimum. But it does help the whole endocrine system to function better, and thus stress levels to be lower and to be healthier.
That's very, very useful. Thank you very much. It's obvious that the professional stress is a huge issue nowadays. So, can you share what are some early warning signs of stress that people actually should watch for, especially in those high pressure work environments?
Yeah, of course. I will start with the body, because body is very, very important indicator. So the physical symptoms that are early signs of stress: frequent headaches, any type of muscle tension, fatigue, and any stomach issues, very often early signs of stress issues. If we go to our emotional systems, then if we see that our irritability, anxiety is increased, or we do feel overwhelmed, that's a sign of stress. On mental level, on cognitive level, if we have trouble concentrating, or like trouble concentrating, actually it's very big indicator, because it indicates that the levels of glutamate, that is a neurotransmitter. So if the levels of glutamate in the prefrontal cortex are too high, that means that we have really, really difficult time when we want to concentrate. Again, another cognitive sign is forgetfulness or indecision. Again, indecision is connected with frontal lobe accumulation of glutamate. Another type of signs that affect our behavior, if we feel that we want to withdraw from social interaction, procrastinate a lot, or again, change in sleep and eating patterns, that's a sign that something's wrong and should be addressed. And here, speaking about withdrawal, there is healthy amount of withdrawal and healthy amount of social interaction. In both extremes, it becomes warning sign. And if we focus on like more work-related perspective, early warning of stress could be drop in productivity, or making more mistakes in our work, and of course lack of motivation. If we're not feeling inspired to get up Monday morning to go to work, and our motivation is decreased, then something's wrong and something should be addressed.
And can you explain what is the major difference between stress and burnout?
And the major difference between stress and burnout, well, I mentioned about the glutamate levels. Many people have experienced nowadays problems related to burnout. And the recent study actually proves that when we experience prolonged stress at work, the accumulation of glutamate in lateral prefrontal cortex, this is the higher functioning part of our brain, and this is the part of our brain that it's connected with higher level decision making. It becomes it just doesn't function correctly anymore because it's overburdened by this neurotransmitter. Thus, we cannot concentrate, we cannot feel any joy, and we cannot feel any pleasure. So we become disassociated from the things that we are normally connected to. As major difference, again, I want to go back to basic. Stress is a single response to a threatful event. Any threat that we experience, imagine dog on a street. our body, like aggressive dog on the street, we see a dog, our body reacts, prepares us for fight, flight, and the other types of responses we are capable of. However, this is healthy for a short amount of time. Once we enter long, prolonged amounts of stress, which require cortisol release, then it harms our body. Then the glutamate in our brain, it's also in too higher amounts for proper functioning of neurosystem. And then we enter burnout, most likely. Scientists still explore some of the science behind the burnout, how exactly it's happening in our brain, but it is a consequence of prolonged stress when we do not take care of our mental health, or we are in very toxic work environment with higher demands to be productive and to be at our best all the time. That's not possible. We are not designed that way.
Thank you for clarifying this. I think that was very, very important. And thank you very much for sharing it with us. And to wrap up, can you please explain, in your experience, what is the most important factor for success of the programs and practices for prevention of professional stress and building resilience? Can you also share an example of organizational change that successfully reduced stress among employees?
The core factor, it's trust. And it's a factor that nowadays lacks at many places. But when there is a trust between managers, employees, between the whole structure, because we speak about hierarchical structures here, but there are many types of structures. When there is trust, any program can work. If the trust is lacking, believe me, no program will be implemented in a positive way. Trust is essential because speaking about stress, reducing stress requires very honest conversations. Those conversations could be in the work team, within a group, with our manager, but also within ourselves, our inner dialogue that we're constantly having. When we lack trust as an employee, it does not matter what the management will suggest us or provide us. And again, if we see positive role modeling, then we see that people on managerial level are taking care of their mental well-being, taking care of their good, well-established, healthy work-life balance, then it's only natural to follow that. A successful example, I've seen many companies actually with this, that they began introducing flexible working schedules and mental health support programs, hiring within an HR team a professional psychologist, or providing session on mental health in general. It could be psychoeducation programs. This benefits the employees the most. And then again, the culture, it's where the things actually are changed. The clear communication, the prevention program are working very well on almost any types of industries. And maybe here to say that happy people are productive people, and reducing stress levels, it benefits the company. So many companies see truly this as an investment. If they invest in the mental health of their employees, of course their results will be through the roof. And that's a normal consequence. If we are not investing in our people, nothing will happen.
Totally agree with you. What is the most important advice related to preventing work-related stress that you can give to our listeners?
Be mindful of the way you feel. Set clear personal boundaries that are flexible enough to allow you to react to any type of situation. And put yourself first in a way that you're knowing your self-worth. It's not dependent on external appraisal. And from that perspective, you can establish the way you're working in a healthy way and achieve your best, because I believe work is expression of our inner potential, and it should be meaningful and it should be passionate, but it shouldn't be harmful. So setting those lines between where we overextend ourselves is the key.
I think that's a fantastic end of our conversation. Thank you, Velina, for sharing your insights on exploring individual differences in stress response. To our listeners, remember to check out Velina's LinkedIn profile, where you can find contact info, and stay tuned for our next episode. Head over to the official StressOut project website to learn more about our initiative. Also, make sure to download the StressOut mobile app to learn how to manage work-related stress and burnout effectively. And also follow us on LinkedIn and Facebook by typing StressOut Project. Thank you for tuning in.